Well, hello everybody and welcome to the live stream. So glad you could make it on this fine, Friday morning. Wow. I'm going to take a sip of my coffee. Hopefully you'll take a sip of whatever you're drinking out there as well. Coffee, tea, water. Hey, let me know. I'm going to clear my voice. There it is. Okay, well, let's try that again. Not technical difficulties, but voice box difficulties. Welcome to No Code Tools for Designers. We're going to be walking through a little bit of an overview of no code tools. What are they? Why should you be using them as designers? And I've broken them down into a couple of categories that might be helpful to you. I'd love to know in the chat, maybe you're watching right now from YouTube, from Facebook, from LinkedIn, wherever you're at. What do you do? What kind of designer are you? And how might you be using no-code tools to help you in your work right now? Are you a web designer? Are you a graphic designer? Are you a UI designer, UX designer, product designer? What's up, King Jernel, coming from the Philippines? Thanks so much for joining the live stream. We got people saying hello from Germany. People like Andrea saying, thanks for the amazing content. Hey, you are so welcome. I'm so excited that you enjoy that content. Hey, what kind of designer are you? And are you using no-code tools in your workflow right now? Would love to know that. Also would love to get you to like, subscribe, follow, whatever it is on whatever platform you're on. We are streaming on multiple platforms this morning. Let's jump right into it and talk a little bit about no-code tools for designers. Okay, so again, you feel free to ask lots of questions. We'll be able to do that, answer all those questions throughout the stream this morning. It's going to be a quick stream, maybe only about 20 or 30 minutes, and then if we have time, maybe we'll leave some time for some question and answer. Feel free to shout those out inside the chat. What are no-code tools? What the heck is that? Do we even know what that is? Right? What is low code, no code? Right? Builder, like what are all these terms? We're going to talk about all of those. What are no code tools? All right. Well, let's talk about no code tools for products. Any tool that allows you, the user, to create websites, applications, or anything like that without writing code. That's a no code tool. A lot of times they're drag and drop interfaces. A lot of times they have pre-built templates or components or elements. How do you get those designs into that no-code platform? Do you export a Figma file? Do you build it right inside the platform? That's all up for grabs. That all differs. But the process is to create some sort of digital product and make that process easier, more accessible to the non-technical user. Hey, little emoji of some kind if you feel like you're a non-technical user. That means you're not the developer, engineer, person who has high levels of code understanding or proficiency. Maybe that's you. We got a couple people in the chat already saying they use Framer and Webflow. People are saying, I love Framer. They're new to UI and web design. Use Webflow to build my portfolio. Excited to learn more no-code tools. Right on. Amazing. That is fantastic. So that is a product kind of idea, but there's more. Did you know that there's more? There's more than just the building of products. There's also no code when we talk about automation. So no-code tools can, and we'll be talking about these today, but no-code tools can also be used from an automation standpoint that allow you to streamline, simplify your workflow. So there are some no-code and automation tools we'll talk about today that allow you to automate those repetitive tasks, maybe connect other tasks together, and allow you to reduce the amount of time you spend doing minutia, right? Everyone's like really concerned and worried about artificial intelligence. You shouldn't be. All it's doing is cutting down on the minutia, on the repetitive tasks. And this is what no-code tools in automation land are doing for us, right? So I do this, it triggers that, it sends this email, that email gets captured or responded to, it does another thing, and it's happening all on its own, right? Where we're not doing anything. Okay, so we're gonna be talking about those two big buckets today, but we're also gonna be talking about a little bit more, right? Why should designers adopt no-code tools? Well, here's the first big reason you should be adopting no-code tools if you haven't already, and that is speed. No-code tools help you build websites and applications in a fraction of the time, right? You go from like code them like from scratch. That's going to take a really long time. You can iterate faster. You can get products to market faster. Just in general, you can do a lot, and I do mean a lot with no code tools. Now, a lot of people will say, well, so this means like I can build MVPs, minimum viable products, much quicker. Absolutely, you can. But then the complaint a lot of people are gonna like kind of have with this whole idea of speed, this idea of, oh, I can get things built quicker is, yeah, but they're not like really like full-fledged, right? They're not like awesome, like full-blown code bases. And I would say to that, that's not true. That's not exactly true. I know a lot of people who have built, you know, $500,000, $1 million products on things like Bubble, right? No code tools, right? And the reason being is it's better to get some sort of application, to get some sort of product market fit, to build some sort of like idea out, get it functioning quickly without all the investment of time and money. And then later on, if you need to pivot and go to a custom code base, you can. A lot of these tools, I'll show you one later, you can actually output the code base, take it with you. Some of them are proprietary where you're locked into them, but if you need to pivot and transition, that's what you do. You build it separately in the background, but now you have funding. Now you have income. Now you have a user base. See how this is better than spending 80, 90, 100, 200 grand to build something and then go, oh, it wasn't actually the right thing. Wouldn't you rather build that thing in a week or two, right? Spending like whatever it is for the subscription to whatever no-code tool, and then figure out, right? Obviously, you should know that you're building the right thing in the first place. We'd want that. But you can test the market quicker, which I think is a lot more effective. So that's the number one is speed. Speed in building, speed in updating, speed in maintaining, speed. These are all really good things. Number two, flexibility. When you're using no-code tools, you can make changes to your design and your prototypes without having to go back and rewrite code. I'm just going to throw a really easy example out there for you. You know, if you are, for instance, like want to change some sort of massive like element inside of your navigation, inside of your website, right? You know, hopefully inside of your code base, you could make this argument, you've set it up in some smart way where it's componentized and I can change it one time and it like cascades across the entire website. But I still have to get into the code editor to do that, right? It may be easy if you know code or if you can do that, but in something like Webflow or Framer, all I have to do is go into that component, like double click inside of it, inside of Webflow or Framer, make that change, it cascades everywhere, press publish, you're done. You didn't touch any code, right? And you did the same level of maintenance, right? So there's a lot of flexibility there without having to go to code. So you can experiment more. For me, this is big. You can create more polished designs. I love this experimentation idea. You can experiment more, right? You can say, hey, I'm going to try the button like this today and it doesn't really work out so well. Don't worry, I can go back and change it tomorrow. I'm not going to have to make a call to my developer or engineering team saying, please, can you make this little change? And they go, oh, we got this whole list of other changes. You get to take command. You get to take control, which is always a good feeling. Let's talk about accessibility. No-code tools are often more accessible to non-technical team members, which means you can collaborate more easily and get feedback from a wider range of people. Wouldn't it be nice? Like, absolutely, you could build your website from scratch and hand roll that thing. But you limit, what I mean by accessibility is you limit the amount of people that can now interact with that thing, fix that thing, or that you have to depend on for the health of that product or thing. So when we open up at using something like no-code tools, we open up accessibility. Right now, all of a sudden, hey, do you have an internet connection? Do you have a mouse? Do you have a keyboard? You could probably get in there and figure out how to do it. I could even film like a quick Loom video saying, hey, if you want to change the navigation, here's what it looks like. Anybody can do it because it's literally go in, point, click. I don't have to worry about, did I close the bracket, right? Is that going to blow up my entire code base? We don't want that. Let's slow down for a second and let's do a little bit of question and answer. All right, we got a couple people chatting here inside of the chat. We got Miss Chandon saying, I am a student. Can you help me with a map to start a perfect career? Hey, yeah, absolutely, I can. I have actually a free resource on my website right now. I'm gonna go look it up for you. And it is a free like introductory course, like take you like an hour or two. When I say course, I mean an hour or two of how to start your career. So you can head over to jesseshowalter.com and you can go to courses right there. Just like that, jesseshowalter.com/courses. Scroll down and you'll see this Start Your Creative Career. It's free. It's a free course. Like I said, it only takes like about an hour or so to take. Watch through all that video content, take some notes, fill out a couple of worksheets, and that'll help you kind of build your creative career. Also, if you're interested, I have just also started or released a new mini course called Learn UI UX Design in a Weekend. And this is going to be a really compact, succinct course that knocks out all of the fluff. You can find a lot more info about it over on my website. But it's gonna hit all of those basics of UI UX design. What is UI design? What is UX design? Let's build something together in Figma. Let's learn some basics of Figma. Let's do a little bit of testing, a little bit of wireframing, and then a section on career preparation. So hopefully that answers your question on courses, on some things that might help you to start your career. One is that first course I mentioned is more advice-based, just career prep advice-based. And the other one is a little bit more technical on getting into UI and UX design. All right, let's see. Somebody says, what is the typeface that you use inside of your presentation? I think it's called White Cap. It's a pretty cool one. It's got some fun little characters inside of it, doesn't it? Joey says, do you have any recommendations on learning how to communicate about coding for when a non-technical team member needs to talk to devs about needs and changes? That is a great question. How do you, as a non-technical person, talk to technical people? Well, here's the first thing. I think our first idea is we got to go out and learn something, right? I got to learn. But actually, the biggest thing is to be an asker of questions. So learn how to ask questions. Learn how to just say, hey, what does this mean to you? And how does this actually play out as a developer? Or I want this thing to happen, but what does that really translate? How does that translate to you? So being interested in them and their world and just asking questions can actually save you a lot of time. And they can actually, number one, feel really engaged, feel like you actually care about them for a moment, but you learn directly from the source. Number two, I actually think that if you want to learn a little bit more about development, you can actually just start building some websites inside of Webflow. Framer's super awesome too, but Webflow has this little advantage where it's highly focused on the structure of how you actually build a websites. You know, I was gonna say table-based layouts. Hello, 1990. We're calling Flexbox, grid, the box model, divs, containers, wrappers, max width, min width. So you start learning some of these techniques specifically for web design or web development. So that might be great for you to check out. Hey, these are great questions. Let's keep going on with our presentation today. Let's talk about value add. A designer that can add more skills to any particular team inevitably brings more value. Okay, so being able to not only design a website, but then create a coded prototype is a much greater value in the marketplace. I just did a live stream earlier this week, I think on Monday, about the career landscape. And this is one of those pieces that connects these two streams together, because if you want to bring more value or add more value, be more hireable, be more desirable in this current climate of the career landscape, you need to be able to add more value. One of those things that might be nice is hey, I design websites or I design mobile applications. And they go, that's great. That's fantastic. A lot of people do that. Hey, did you know I also can code a mobile prototype of my application using something like FlutterFlow or Bravo Studio? It doesn't have to be the end result, but I can actually get you something that's data-driven, data-driven and functions inside of your mobile application or mobile device like an app. And they go, really? You can do that? That's a big deal, right? That's a value add. It doesn't necessarily have to be the main thing they hire you for, but it's interesting, isn't it? It's maybe we're hiring, maybe a restaurant is hiring a hostess or a server, right? They don't need to be bilingual, but if you are bilingual, isn't that nice? What if somebody who speaks Japanese or Mandarin or Spanish comes to the restaurant? That's a little value add, right? And if you're neck and neck in the hiring decision between you and somebody else, and you also can code prototypes inside of a no-code tool, don't you feel like that little bit of value add might eke you across just the finish line a little bit more? It might, right? Okay, so think about the value add. Let's talk about also service and price increase. The more tools that you have in your toolbox, the more services that you can offer, the more money you can make without outsourcing. This is especially important for all you freelancers out there who are trying to figure out how to make more money. This is the way that you make more money. You stop outsourcing outsourcing. You stop saying, I can't do that. That's not in my service list. You start saying, hey, I actually can because I know this simple tool. So consider that and maybe add that to your toolbox. Okay, let's talk about, now we're going to go into actual tools. Let's talk about websites, and we'll break down a few of these right now. Okay, so for all of you in the house that are still building websites with WordPress, dude, I heard a crazy stat the other day that's still like, it's still like 37 or 47% of the web is still built on WordPress. That's almost half of every website that you ever go to right now is still built on WordPress. And so for all of you that are like sticking up your nose at WordPress and be like, Framer and Webflow, that's the way to be, understand that there's a lot of clients, a lot of projects that are built on WordPress that don't necessarily just want to blow that entire site up and everything that, all the history of that site, purely because Framer and Webflow are the new cool kids on the block, right? So WordPress is still a dependable platform. It still has a massive user base. You want to stick your nose up at it and say, I don't want those projects. You're actually saying, I don't want half of the potential projects out there, especially for freelancers. It's a big deal. So there's a bunch of WordPress builders out there: Elementor, Oxygen, Divi, Themify. I've used Elementor and Oxygen and played with Divi. I haven't touched Themify at all, but I am actually a pretty decent fan of Elementor. I think it offers a lot of value to those of you that are building WordPress like websites. Also keep this in mind, you can build applications using WordPress still, right? Like, so you can install something like WooCommerce and like member management and like hypercharge your SEO, and all of a sudden you've built a locked at like a password protected like member site that has like e-commerce on it, the whole thing. So you can build all of these things on WordPress, and you can use Elementor to do it. And it's a lot of drag and drop interface kind of stuff. You know, like you can host all your stuff through like Elementor, which makes it really, really easy. Again, like e-commerce, event management, landing pages, media, all this kind of stuff. This is not paid. Again, please keep in mind, this is not a paid like thing. I'm not getting paid by anybody to run the stream right now. I'm just trying to recommend tools that I think might be helpful to you. Okay. That's all I'm trying to do. Okay. So again, I don't build a lot. I still do have 1 or 2 clients on WordPress, but I don't do a lot of WordPress building. For those of you that do, these might be interesting. Okay. Fantastic. Let's talk about website builders. I know that you're like, what? You're not showing anything about like Framer or Webflow yet. You know why? Because it's not always the right tool for the job, my friend. Sometimes you just want to build a website. And when I say website builder, okay, this is why I'm using this word specifically, because they are meant to specifically and only build websites. Okay, we're talking about things like Squarespace, we're talking about things like Wix, we're talking about things like Showit. So like obviously you have like Wix, you have Editor X. These are very, very capable tools. Editor X and Wix have like, you know, CMS, e-commerce, like all the plugins, all the stuff, okay? And you get to design however you want to design, which is pretty nice. You can just kind of drag and drop things. And for those of you who want to extend with some custom code, you can do that as well. It's pretty cool. I have done some stuff in the past. I did a little series on building a website with Editor X. If you're interested in that, go back and check that out. But these would be great examples of website builders. Now, again, before you stick your nose up at the Squarespaces and the Showits of the world, my wife is a full-time photographer. She uses Showit, and she does quite well with her website. I know I have a couple people inside of my Design Champs community, and they are specifically Squarespace website like developers and designers, right? That's all they do. And this is actually kind of an interesting thing. I listened to a podcast with a gal one time who was a Squarespace website designer and developer. And one of her biggest reasons for using Squarespace was because after she was done building and developing the website for the client in something like Squarespace, she handed it off to them. All customer service, all technical support never came back through her. It all went through Squarespace support, right? They have a problem, call Squarespace. Don't call me. That's the platform your website is built on. Kind of interesting. Eric says, what about Shopify? Wouldn't that be a website builder? Absolutely, definitely. And if I had more time, I could go into like more categories. I would definitely call Shopify a specific e-commerce website builder, right? Where I'm trying to think more in these bigger buckets, but 100%, you know, well, there's another one. What's the other one? Like Shopify something. It starts with a P. That's another like e-commerce builder that's specific for e-commerce. Absolutely. But these are all good solutions for, you know, building your website. Like, okay, so you got something like Wix, you got something like Squarespace, you got stuff like Showit, lots of builders out there. Let's talk about no code builders. So this is where and this might sound funky to you, but this is where I start to differentiate, right, a little bit. Now, EditorX, I think, still fits within the realm of no code builder, but now we introduce things like Webflow and Framer, which are like the cool kids on the block right now, right? Like I use Webflow right now and have for years to do all of my web design and web development for clients, marketing websites, all that kind of stuff. And it is super fully fledged. If you haven't played with Webflow, you probably should. At this point, you are late to the game. And the new kid on the block is Framer, which let's talk really quickly about Framer and Webflow and the differences here, because I think a lot of people are interested in this. I'm starting to make some more content coming out pretty soon about Framer because I think it's a valuable tool, both Webflow and Framer. So yeah, let's talk about it a little bit. Framer feels a lot more like you're playing inside of Figma. Okay, so like you open up Figma, you open up Framer, it feels like the same thing. There's a layers panel. I can click on those layers, touch things, tap things, whatever. It operates more like a design tool. I can drag things around there, yada, yada, yada. There is a right-hand panel inside of Framer. You can see it over here, where you're going to have a lot of these different attributes that are web centric, right? Like layout width, height, max width, you know, like padding. This stuff relates to the box model and to Flexbox and all that kind of stuff. So yes, those things are there, but they are a little less prevalent than they are over here. You can see actual like examples of, and yes, this is a little bit of like a what you see is what you get kind of tool, but there's a little bit more emphasis on how the web actually works and making you think. It's forcing you to think. So I would say there's a little bit more of a learning curve inside of something like Webflow because it's making you learn to think a little bit more like a developer, right? So keep that in mind, that one of them feels a little bit more like a design tool, a little bit more like Figma, and you're gonna have to learn the characteristics. Like for instance, if you've never opened up Figma and you open up Figma and somebody says, use auto layout, you go, holy cow, how do I do that? So every tool has their learning curve. And that's feels a similar way. You have to learn the lingo, learn the way that it operates inside of Framer. Inside of Webflow, when you're learning that learning curve, you're not only learning the how the actual platform works itself, but you're also at the same time learning how front-end web development works. So there's a little bit extra in my opinion. But you know, keep those in mind. Those are both, I do think they're both phenomenal tools. I love both of them. And I think that they both have like a place, and you should definitely be trying both of them. So again, Webflow, EditorX, Framer, fantastic no code builders. Love those a ton. Let's talk about the next category. Ooh, let's go into the web app category, right? I know that a lot of you, and some people are asking things about like FlutterFlow versus Webflow. Don't worry, we're gonna get into some of these. We're gonna talk about them right now after I take a sip of my coffee. And we talk actually really quickly about something really cool that's coming up inside my Design Champs community. All right, August 15th, that's coming up. Was that next week or the week after? It's coming up August 15th, 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Inside of my Design Champs community, we are actually having a design crit. We have these every month, one design crit a month. We usually do office hours every month as well. If you're interested in this, you can head over to jesseshowalter.com and go to Design Champions there in the top. You get all the details about the Design Champions, what it's all about. If you want to sign up for the newsletter, you can. But it's going to be a pretty cool event. This is where we allow 2 to 3 people, depending on the amount of time we have, to bring their work up, and you're going to get feedback and constructive critique from anywhere between 5 to 15 people. And this, I'm just going to tell you right now, this will actually progress you as a designer. It'll progress your career further, faster than anything else when you get feedback on your design work. And if you're not in design school, it's kind of hard to get, right? So definitely consider becoming a member. The link is down in the description of wherever you're watching this live stream. All right, let's talk about web apps, because these are where we start getting really, really cool, right? So web apps, when I mean web application, right, I mean like building a web application, like desktop, like whatever it is, like something you log into your browser and actually use in the web. I think about Bubble, I think about Webflow, and I think about FlutterFlow. Now, let's talk about these really quickly, because I'm actually not the biggest fan of Bubble, although I know some people who have built functional and successful applications and businesses using Bubble. There's a learning curve there. All of these are going to have a learning curve, but just keep in mind that Bubble is a choice. It's its own kind of platform, its own kind of vibe, and it's something you will have to get used to. But I'm not opposed to Bubble, but I prefer something like Webflow and FlutterFlow, because Webflow has recently introduced some tools that allow you to actually like gate and protect some of your some of like your content, right? So you can actually create membership areas, you can create like all sorts of stuff like inside of Webflow. It has lots of capabilities. I'm trying to find that that announcement over on Webflow, but I can't find it. But Webflow definitely has the ability to build web applications where a user signs up for an account, like password and email, creates that account, and then like interacts. Now, I do think that something like oh no, I think we lost our stream. Oh, wait. Okay, I think we're still going. We might still be going. Okay. Yep. Okay, we're still going. So if we're still going, we're still going. I'm gonna keep streaming, and you let me know in the chat if you can still hear me, can still see me. I think we might have lost our stream somewhere. Okay, we were cut off for a second. Let's check and see. Nope, we're still going. Okay, so we're gonna keep going with our stream. Here we go. I don't know what's happening or why we're having problems, but let's try to get into it. So the reason I love FlutterFlow a little bit more is because it really is geared towards people who want to build those full-blown web applications. So I'm gonna jump into my FlutterFlow account right now, and you can see like these are all like projects that like I'm currently building inside of FlutterFlow. But you can even go to something like the marketplace inside of FlutterFlow, and you have like starting kind of like jump off points. Like let's say you want to start with like a Nike store like example. Like I can click on it, right? I can clone that project just like I can in something like Webflow, and then or we could just view it live before we commit to cloning it and working on it. Okay, so let's check this out really quickly. Pretty cool. So look at this beautiful application that's like launching right now, and we can kind of like let's click around on a shoe. Beautiful. We have animation. We got all sorts of fun stuff. You can click to put it in our cart. What can we change the stuff? So again, not fully functional yet, but these are all these are all templates for you to start using. Okay, and I'll show you some more of these. But look, when we go back to the project, we can actually kind of dig in to the manager. You can see it's very much so a drag and drop interface, and you go, oh, this doesn't look like my application. It's because we're creating frameworks and templates for all of our data, because FlutterFlow is also database driven. You can come over here to the left hand side, and you can open up your data types, and your actual like connected to Firebase, which we haven't yet because this is a template. So there's lots of great like tutorials and content online. I've done some stuff about FlutterFlow, so I'm super into it. Look, you can see all the UI builder there, like all the pages like for your like application are here or there. And then you look just like Webflow, you have all of your layers that represent all of the pieces there in your application. This layout is a fairly complex one. If I go back to FlutterFlow, and let's say I want to do like this Kanban app that I'm working on over here. What's really cool is, and I want to make sure that you understand what's, for me, like the most important thing about FlutterFlow is that the name FlutterFlow denotes that it's built on the technology, which is Flutter. And Flutter is your ability to code something once and then actually push it out, one code base, multiple applications. So this means you can have a web application that people can log into on the web. This means they can jump into the App Store, both Android and iOS, download a native app version of it, and it's all running off of one code base. And this is where it gets pretty crazy, because you used to have multiple code bases for multiple types of applications. So in my opinion, building on Flutter is the smartest thing you can do. We're going to talk about some other no-code app builders, mobile app builders, all that kind of stuff. But for me, Flutter is the technology or the thing you want to use, because it allows you to maintain one code base and push to all platforms. This way you don't have to have an iOS version, an Android version, a web version. People are going, hey, your Android version's not on par or not like the same as your iOS version. I know, because fewer people use our Android version, so we put less time and energy into it. Just do it once and push it everywhere, because you can see here, look, we have our Kanban application here, and this is just like on Webflow. We can see it's being viewed on the desktop right here, but what about on the mobile? Let's drop down to something like an iPhone 13. How does it look on the iPhone 13? Great. This is what's going to get pushed and seen in our mobile view, right, for our native application. So kind of crazy, kind of mind-blowing, kind of game-changing. I think so. So I don't think, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, I don't think Bubble is pushing out to multiple platforms. Webflow is fantastic. It's going to be web only. We're going to talk about some mobile builders here in a second, but for me, FlutterFlow, kind of, for me, the buck stops there. It's kind of right now the best in my opinion, but that's just my hot take opinion, right? Not paid to say it. Not a fanboy, just love the technology, love Flutter. Even if I was going to consult with a company who is not using no-code tools and said, we want to build an application, what should we do? I'd go, you better find yourself a Flutter developer, right? Because that's going to get you the most bang for your buck right now. If you want to become a developer, you better learn Flutter, because right now that's the way to go. That's the way to be super hireable and desirable in the market for that. Okay, cool. Let's talk about mobile apps, because these are still very much an option, okay? Like if you just want to build a quick mobile app, or maybe your app idea doesn't serve well like as a web application or a desktop application, but it does serve well for mobile. Great, fantastic. We have things like FlutterFlow can do mobile, Bravo Studio, and Glide. Glide is that application that lets you basically build their claim to fame is build a mobile application in 10 minutes using a Google Sheet. So you use a Google Sheet as a database, and all of these are going to do the same thing. It's going to require some sort of database, Airtable, Google Sheet, Notion. There's lots of options, like I said, Airtable already, for you to have some sort of database. And so sometimes you're doing that, and you're using something like Google Firebase to connect or whatever. So all of these are going to have that piece or that component to it where you operate off a database, inject that data, whether it's user data, post data, whatever it is, into the application. And that way everyone's having this ongoing experience. That's how applications work. So that's Glide's kind of claim to fame, is build it very quickly using nothing than a Google Sheet. But also you have something like Bravo Studio. I've actually done a whole slew of videos on my channel. If you're interested in Bravo Studio, I don't hate Bravo Studio. Actually, I'm still kind of into Bravo Studio. I think it's good. And I actually built an entire application in Bravo Studio. I built it in a weekend. Right. And so I have this 3-part about how you use Figma to build your designs, and then how you connect it to the APIs, and then how you actually then launch it and do the whole thing. So 4-part thing, I think it was. Really, really good stuff, and really, really good application, I think. Solid. If you want an iOS and Android app, it was great. I built a board game application that people could find board games, sort through modern board games, and then even upload their own if they wanted to. But it's pretty cool. And what I love about Bravo is that you can do all of your design inside of Figma. I will say this about FlutterFlow: as you're building and designing, it can feel, the learning curve there is tough, right? And so that drag and drop editor at times can feel a bit clunky. You can definitely learn it, get through it, and then all of a sudden become a master at it. But there's a learning curve there with FlutterFlow. Whereas if you're used to designing in Figma, that experience is gonna be so nice, because all you have to do inside of Bravo Studio is design that thing inside of Figma, import that into Bravo Studio, and then go, hey, that spot right there, I need that to take this info. And that spot right there, I need that to suck in this data from my database. So it feels, as far as your layout and your design, feels a little bit more free for you to explore inside of Figma. So I like that quite a bit. But these are some great options here, and let's just jump over actually, because I think I had Bravo Studio pulled up. You can make some really beautiful applications, and they have full functionality. And what I do love about Bravo is they're also adding functionality every single day, it feels like. So video, audio, users, multiple databases interacting on pages. You can build fitness apps, CRMs, restaurant apps. This is actually a huge value add or sales point for those of you that are freelancers that are designing websites. Wouldn't it be nice to say, hey, I can also design for you, Mr. or Mrs. Coffee Shop owner that I'm building a website for? I'd love to design a mobile app for you It's a custom mobile app where your users can download it for free in the App Store, and they can track their membership points every time they come back to their favorite coffee shop. Or, hey, you know, like I'm working with like a local gym that doesn't have their own like app. I can build an app for you that has sign in and workout tracker and all that stuff for your clients. You can basically like, that could be a value add for them. Or sell it as a subscription, whatever. But these are all great value adds. I can build a mobile app for you. They go, really? How much? Surely that's like $100,000. You go, I can do it for you for 15 grand. They go like, sorry, what? Because now the no-code tools have made it so easy that it's about as easy as building a website in Webflow. So if you would do a website in Webflow for a client for 15 grand, you could do a mobile app for them for 15 grand. Totally, 100%. Just a little bit of that learning curve and it'll get you there. I promise you that. So, okay, great, cool. Let's go back, and we've hit all those: FlutterFlow, Bravo Studio, Glide. Let's talk about one of my favorite categories, which is automation. Again, automation is like fixing all of those redundant, repetitive tasks. You have things like Airtable that can help you do a little bit of this, serving as a database. I think Notion can help you do this, serving a little bit as a database. You have this app called If This Then That, which basically is, I think, a lesser version of the granddaddy, the best, which is Zapier. Zapier is Zapier. How do you say it? I don't really care. Zapier is like the way for you to connect all of these tasks together. I'm going to show you my actual Zapier account here. I'll show you an example of this, and then how you could, I use it in the simplest of ways, but I'll show you how to extend it even more if you want to. So I'm inside of my Zapier account, and you can see every time somebody gets this free Figma cheat sheet that I give away for free, all they have to do is go to Gumroad and sign up for it. It's connecting to my Gumroad account. It's tracking that sale on Gumroad, or that freebie that somebody's downloaded, and then it's taking their email and it's shooting it to my email like platform, and then it's actually creating a subscriber for it. It is dropping it into like a specific it's dropping it into a specific segment, and then that's like the small amount of automation that's happening there inside of Zapier. Now let's go back and let's set up a new Zap here really quickly so you can see, because Zapier does have a free plan, and there's lots of value you can get out of using something like Zapier. Let's see if I can get the interwebs to work for me. For some reason it just does not want to, but let's see if we can. I'm going to close down all of these other tabs and say, come on Zapier, we're going to make this thing work. Okay, well, while we're doing that, let me just talk about like kind of a next piece of automation. So I want you to think about this, because there's a lot of other tools that you might use that already have built-in automation. For instance, my email software, I use Flowdesk. You might use ConvertKit or MailChimp or whatever. Has its own automation set in place. So think about this, right? When somebody purchases something from me or downloads something for free from me on Gumroad, which I use as my e-commerce platform, Zapier is going to take that information and bring it over to my email platform, and now it's there, and it gets put in a certain segment, like different buckets. If they bought something that had to do with Figma, it goes into a Figma bucket. Then my email software is going to automate and say, hey, the moment you get dumped into that bucket or that segment, I want you to put that person into an automated workflow that says, at this like same moment, we're going to send them a thank you email. And then 5 days after that, I'm going to send them another email that says, how are you liking that Figma thing? Do you have any questions? Can I help you in any way, right? And then 20 days after that, it's going to send them an invite to some sort of cool event that I'm doing, right? And so all of a sudden they're on autopilot, automated. This is how automation works. Let's jump back now because we have our Zapier that's working right now. Okay, cool. So you can create a new Zap, come up here. This is how this works. And you're basically going to look for whatever it is that you're doing. Like maybe, let's say when somebody emails you, right, in Gmail, you would connect your account, you would choose the event. Hey, when I get a new email, and that email, like we're going to continue, again, we'd want to connect our accounts. Then what we want to do is connect it to, let's say, Trello. Okay, so we're going to say, hey, Trello, we want you to, from that email, we want you to create a card and do that, and then you go, oh, is that all you can do? No, let's connect another one. After it connects that thing in Trello, then I want to connect it to Google Docs, and like I want to line it up inside of a Google Sheet or something, and then after that I want to send an email, and then after that I want to, I don't know, like log this in Basecamp, let's say like my project management software. Now we have this amazing like automated workflow that's happening inside of Zapier. This is happening with no code. It's all automated for you, and it's happening without you doing all these mundane tasks. This is probably one of my favorite tools, one of my most used tools, and the way that I really use a lot of no code is really through automation. Obviously, I'm building websites, applications, all these stuff with these other tools that I've shown, but lots of great options for you as a designer to start utilizing no-code tools, leveraging them, because that's what it's really about, leveraging those no-code tools. Let's jump into a time of question and answer and see if anybody has any questions. All right, Dan says, do you have a showcase of products built on FlutterFlow? That's the biggest sell point for me, to see what other great designers have built. I'm pretty sure that if you went over to FlutterFlow's website, they would probably have it. But again, I'm telling you, this is not like, I'm not trying to do like some sort of sponsored like live stream today. This is just me recommending stuff. But I'll just cruise through. Let's see. Yeah, okay, let's jump on this one. This is from a CTO and co-founder of Atlas. They looks like they built this guy that's available inside of the App Store right now. So let's open it up and see what it looks like. Okay. Is there more? Yes, there is more. Look, this is Thomas Coiner, who built some sort of athletics application. Let's open that one up. Here's Josh. He built Spark Change. Let's open this one up. So Atlas is currently in the App Store, right? Look at that. Atlas MasterCard. Oh, okay, so somehow this was like some sort of like financial thing that was built. Okay, this is an athletics app that is built. Look at that. It looks pretty slick, pretty awesome. Like that. Spark Change. Let's go to the iPhone. What does it look like? It looks pretty gorgeous. What does it do? EV charging delivered. Oh, these are all. So here's the crazy thing is like, there's so many, just in that quick little snippet, there's so many different things that people are doing with this. Because again, one of the biggest points of interest for no code, if you're a designer, is that you no longer have a barrier to entry to build products if you have some sort of product idea. So you have the design knowledge, you might have the user experience know-how and understanding of what makes a product look, feel good, but how do you get it actually live and working? Well, now you have a means to do that. So there's kind of no excuse anymore if you have some sort of great product idea. So, yeah, okay. FlutterFlow Lydia says, looks like a serious game changer. I think it is as well. Yeah. Okay. Robbie says, I have a graphic design and printing business. Web for me is just for an online presence and post projects. Which would you recommend if I want to migrate out of easy WordPress? Okay, so if you want to migrate out of WordPress, you're not really hip to like the building of the websites thing. I might jump to something like Webflow or Framer. And you know what? Since you don't want to spend a lot of time learning, if maybe that's you, I might jump straight into Framer if I was you. Or if you're happy with WordPress, maybe you jump on something like Elementor and just kind of rebuild things there. I do know there's a lot of cool custom templates over on Elementor for portfolios and agency websites, but you can build some really cool stuff inside of Framer. Framer actually has a great community that's starting to be built around it, and they have a whole resource of templates that you can actually get. Not to mention that they have a new AI tool which will generate your website in seconds, which is stupid. No, I don't think as of now nobody's just gonna go with it or anything and just let it fly like that. But these are pretty cool, pretty impressive templates. You have some paid ones down here, obviously, but let's click on this one and just see and preview this template. So again, this is something you could just immediately implement in seconds inside of Framer. If you're like, I don't have a website and I need some case studies, cool, here it is right here, boom, done. You are all done, right? Has pages, has blog pages even in it. Gorgeous, fantastic. Set that up literally in seconds. And then if you want to learn, stay tuned because I got some cool Framer content coming pretty soon. Pretty big fan of Framer. I like it a lot. So definitely consider those. These are great questions, everybody. Dan says, seems to have some pretty great capabilities. Didn't seem to be too limited for me. I'll probably test it out since I already use Webflow. Definitely you should be testing it out. I'm a big fan of learning what you need to know when you need to know it, not all the tools all the time. But I definitely think that Framer has passed that line for me where it makes a lot of sense to learn. Hey, if you, again, speaking of learning, if you are interested in learning more about UI and UX design, I have a new course called Learn UI and UX Design in a Weekend. I know that's a big claim. It's a 4-hour course of recorded content. There's worksheets in there for you to fill out. There is some challenges there, and you'll actually build a case study, a project to build your portfolio. So I claim that you can do it in a weekend. I believe you can. If you put 4 hours in on a Saturday, 4 hours in on a Sunday, you would then have a pretty good foundation of UI and UX design, and it's not going to be one of these courses that you can't complete. Did you know that 75% of people don't complete courses? It's because a lot of times these courses spend too much time focusing on theory. And they're way too large, they're way too much. And so I tried to create a course that was really streamlined, really succinct and dense and jam-packed that you can actually complete in a weekend. Hey, if you're not into taking a course, maybe you're looking for something more like community. My Design Champs community is growing by the day. We just passed 100 members. And in August, on the 15th, we're doing a Design Crit event. We have live monthly events every single month that you could be a part of. The link's down in the description. Consider becoming a design champion. It literally costs about 1 or 2 lattes, the price of 1 or 2 lattes a month. And you get to be a part of a growing community with live events, with VIP access to content, behind the scenes stuff. And you just get that support that you need as a designer. So consider becoming a design champion, sign up for the course. And that's it, my friends. Thank you so much for watching the live stream today. I hope you are building with some no-code tools. Hope you are enjoying it. Let me know if you have any questions. Links are down in the description where you can contact me. Have a fantastic